I fell for her, she felt it too, and now passion consumes us both. First contact. The cerulean sky of Azura stretched endlessly above as Riven Thorn adjusted his atmospheric suit. 3 months into this expedition, he'd grown accustomed to the planet's slightly higher gravity and the sweet metallic scent that permeated the air. As the mission's lead xenobiologist, he'd been granted permission to explore beyond the main research perimeter, a privilege he intended to use fully today. Command, this is Thorn. I'm heading southwest into the valley region. Should be back before sundown, he reported into his comm unit. Copy that, Thorn. Don't forget to collect those soil samples Dr. Mercer requested, came the crackled response. Riven smiled to himself as he packed his equipment. At 34, he'd visited 7 exoplanets, but none had captivated him like Azura. Its bioluminescent forests and floating rock formations defied Earth's physics, making every expedition feel like walking through a dream. The descent into the valley took nearly 2 hours. Riven paused occasionally to catalog unusual flora. Spiral-shaped ferns that retracted at his approach and translucent vines that emitted soft musical tones when touched. His sample case was nearly full when he noticed a gap between 2 towering crystalline structures ahead. Curiosity piqued. He squeezed through the opening, emerging into a hidden grove unlike anything he'd documented. Pools of liquid silver reflected the dancing light filtered through canopies of diamond-like leaves. The air here felt different, warmer, more oxygenated. Riven removed his helmet, breathing deeply. That's when he felt it. A presence, a consciousness observing him with intense fascination. Hello? He called, scanning the surroundings. I mean no harm. A subtle movement caught his eye. From behind a curtain of luminous foliage emerged a figure that stopped his breath. She was humanoid with graceful limbs and delicate features, but undeniably alien. Her skin was a soft purple, with patterns like constellations shimmering across her shoulders. Her eyes, large, iridescent, with no visible pupils, studied him with unmistakable intelligence. You understand me? Riven asked, keeping his voice gentle. The woman tilted her head, then nodded once. She approached with fluid movements, stopping just beyond arm's reach. I'm Riven, he said, placing a hand on his chest. Riven Thorn. She mirrored his gesture, pressing her fingers to her sternum. Naya, she responded, her voice melodic with an otherworldly resonance. Riven's scientific mind raced. The Azuran natives were thought to be primitive, living in nomadic tribes far from the research base. None had demonstrated linguistic abilities compatible with human communication. How can you speak my language? He asked, fascinated. Naya smiled, the expression transforming her face. Not speak, feel. She touched her temple, then pointed to his. Your thoughts, bright, like sunrise. Understanding dawned on Riven. You're telepathic. She stepped closer, now near enough that he could see the subtle variations in her skin tone. Not words, feelings, intentions. Her fingers hovered near his face, seeking permission. Riven nodded, and her cool fingertips brushed his cheek. An immediate warmth spread through him, not physical heat, but emotional resonance. He suddenly understood her curiosity mirrored his own, felt her cautious wonder at discovering a being from beyond her world. Remarkable, he whispered, instinctively reaching to touch her arm. The moment his fingers met her skin, a current seemed to pass between them. Something beyond scientific interest, something primal and unexpected. Naya's eyes widened, and Riven knew she'd felt it too. She didn't pull away. You're different, she said softly. Others came before. Cold minds, closed feelings. Her expression grew wistful. Your mind, open, like our sacred pools. Time seemed suspended as they studied each other. Riven knew he should be taking notes, recording observations, maintaining scientific detachment. Instead, he found himself entranced by the way light played across her features, how her expression shifted with subtle nuance. Will you show me? He asked, gesturing to their surroundings. Your world? Naya's smile deepened as she extended her hand. Come, much to see before darkness falls. As their fingers intertwined, Riven felt a certainty settle over him. His life had irrevocably changed. Whatever discovery awaited in this hidden valley would transcend science and enter the realm of the heart. A hidden worlds, the research station's sterile environment, felt jarringly artificial after days spent exploring Azura's wilderness with Naya. Riven had convinced his colleagues that bringing her to the facility would advance their understanding of Azuran culture. What he hadn't disclosed was how her presence had already transformed his perspective, not just of this planet, but of his own existence. These are called books, Riven explained, guiding Naya through his personal quarters. Her fingers trailed across his collection of paper volumes, rarities in their digital age, but treasures he couldn't bear to leave on Earth. "We have similar," she replied, the rhythmic cadence of her voice now familiar to him, pressed fibers from the silver trees, memories preserved in patterns. Naya had proven remarkably adaptable, quickly grasping human technology and customs. Yet it was her differences that fascinated him. How she perceived emotional undercurrents invisible to humans. How she communicated with Azura's fauna through subtle gestures he could barely discern. "Your colleagues watch me," she observed, turning to face him. "They fear what they cannot understand." Riven nodded, unable to deny it. Humans often fear the unknown, but fear can transform into wonder with time and knowledge. Like yours did? Her iridescent eyes studied him intently, the constellation-like patterns on her purple skin glimmering under the artificial light. The question caught him off guard. Since their first meeting in the hidden valley, he'd been careful to maintain professional boundaries, or at least the appearance of them. But Naya's telepathic sensitivity made concealment impossible. "Yes," he admitted. "At first I wanted to study you. Now I want to understand you." She stepped closer, the subtle fragrance that emanated from her skin, reminiscent of jasmine and ozone, enveloping him. "Understanding begins with truth. Show me your truth, Riventhorn." His hand rose almost involuntarily to trace the shimmering patterns on her forearm. "My truth is that I've explored 7 worlds, cataloged thousands of species, yet never encountered anyone like you. And this troubles you?" "It terrifies me." His voice dropped to a whisper. "In 3 weeks this mission ends. I return to Earth." Naya's expression remained serene, but Riven felt a wave of emotion emanate from her. Complex, bittersweet, resolute. She placed her palm against his chest directly over his heart. "Your world," she said softly. "Show me." Riven retrieved his tablet, displaying images of Earth, its oceans and forests, crowded cities and quiet villages. Naya absorbed everything with quiet intensity, occasionally touching the screen as if to connect more deeply with the images. When he showed her the night sky from his childhood home, her breath caught. "These constellations, we have stories about them. Ancient tales of the time when our worlds were one." "That's not possible," Riven said gently. "Earth and Azura are separated by light years." Naya smiled enigmatically. "Distance is an illusion, Riven. Hearts recognize each other across galaxies." As if to demonstrate, she placed her hand against his once more. This time the connection felt deeper, a resonance that transcended physical touch. Riven experienced flashes of memory that weren't his own. A childhood spent learning the ways of Azura's natural forces, ceremonial rites performed beneath 3 aligned moons, the loneliness of being different even among one's own kind. When their contact broke, tears glistened in Riven's eyes. We call it soul speaking," Naya explained. "Reserved for those whose spirits recognize each other." Understanding dawned on Riven. "On Earth, we might call it falling in love." For the first time since they'd met, Naya appeared vulnerable, uncertain. This feeling has no name on Azura. It simply is. Riven's scientific objectivity had long since abandoned him. He reached for her, and she moved into his embrace as if they'd rehearsed this moment countless times. Her lips found his in a kiss that began tentatively but quickly deepened, carrying currents of shared emotion that defied verbal expression. Later, as Azura's dual moons cast ethereal light through the viewport, Naya traced patterns on Riven's bare chest, her purple skin luminescent against his. "Your kind believes in cataloging everything," she murmured. "Categorizing all you encounter." "It's how we make sense of the universe," Riven responded, running his fingers along the curve of her spine. "And this?" she asked, pressing closer to him. "How would you catalog what exists between us?" Riven smiled, pulling her into another kiss. "Some things defy classification. They can only be experienced." Outside, the alien landscape glittered under starlight, while within, 2 beings from different worlds discovered that connection transcends biological differences, finding home in each other's arms. Forbidden connection. The emergency meeting had lasted 3 hours, and Director Harlow's verdict was final. All contact with indigenous Azurans would now require committee approval. Riven's unauthorized interactions with Naya had been deemed compromising to scientific objectivity and potentially dangerous to mission integrity. "You've gone native, Thorne," Harlow had stated, the disappointment evident in her weathered face. "I expected better from someone with your credentials." Now, as twilight descended on the research station, Riven paced his quarters, frustration mounting with each pass. His data on Azuran biodiversity had been praised, but his insights into Naya's people, the Vashiri, had been dismissed as compromised by personal entanglement. A soft chime from his communication device interrupted his brooding. The message was simple, coordinates followed by a time. His heart raced as he recognized the location, a cavern system he and Naya had explored 2 weeks earlier, where bioluminescent crystals formed natural chambers of extraordinary beauty. Slipping past security was surprisingly easy. Most of the team was focused on preparing for the departure scheduled in 9 days. The thought of leaving Azura, of leaving Naya, created a physical ache in Riven's chest that no rational argument could dispel. The twin moons illuminated his path as he navigated the familiar route. At the cavern entrance, he hesitated, suddenly uncertain. What future could possibly exist for them? A human scientist and an Azuran Vashiri from worlds separated by impossible distances. "Your thoughts are turbulent tonight," came Naya's voice from the shadows. She emerged, clothed in traditional Vashiri garments, intricate layers of shimmering fabric that complemented the natural patterns of her skin. "The Council of Elders has forbidden me from seeing you," she continued, moving closer. "They say your people bring change too quickly, that you will leave and take pieces of our world with you." "They're not wrong," Riven admitted, reaching for her hands. "But what they don't understand is that I'll leave pieces of myself behind too." Naya's expression softened. "I revealed our connection to the Elders. It was not well received. Connection? What I showed you through soul speaking. The recognition between us." Her fingers tightened around his. "It is rare even among my kind. Between species, it is unprecedented." The cavern's entrance opened into a vast chamber where crystal formations created natural shelves and alcoves. Naya led him to a secluded space she had prepared, soft woven mats surrounded by small containers of glowing essence. "Tonight," she said, her voice taking on a ceremonial quality, "I will show you the ancient ways of my people. If we are to be separated, you should carry this knowledge." What followed was an education unlike any in Riven's scientific career. Naya demonstrated how the Vashiri communed with Azura's elemental forces, not through technology or tools, but through a form of conscious intention that bordered on symbiosis with the planet itself. "Your scientists believe we are primitive because we build no machines," she explained, manipulating the bioluminescent energy into swirling patterns. "They cannot see that we have instead built relationships with our world." As the night deepened, their scientific exchange gradually transformed into something more intimate. Each demonstration of Vashiri knowledge was punctuated by touches that lingered, by glances that communicated what words could not. "In 9 days you leave," Naya finally said, the reality they had both been avoiding. Riven pulled her close, burying his face in her neck. "I've requested a permanent assignment on Azura. It was denied. The Elders have ordered me to return to the sacred mountains." Her voice remained steady, but Riven felt her sorrow as if it were his own. "They believe distance will sever our bond. Will it?" he asked, suddenly desperate for reassurance. Naya placed her palm over his heart, initiating the soul-speaking connection. This time, instead of memories, Riven experienced a vision, himself returning to Azura, standing beneath its alien sky as if coming home after a long absence. When the vision faded, Naya's eyes held absolute certainty. "What has been joined cannot be separated by mere distance, Riven Thorne. Not even the void between stars can break what we have forged." Their kiss deepened into passion, and as their bodies entwined beneath the glow of Azuran crystals, Riven understood that he was irreversibly changed. Whatever scientific discoveries awaited him across the galaxy, none would compare to this. The discovery of connection that transcended biological difference, of love that defied astronomical improbabilities. Later, As they lay together watching crystal light play across the cavern ceiling, Naya traced the contours of his face as if memorizing them. "The ancient texts speak of star-crossed souls," she whispered. "Those who find each other despite impossible odds." "On Earth we have similar stories," Riven replied, "though few involve actual stars." Her laughter, rare and precious, echoed through the chamber. "When you return to your world, look to the southern sky. The blue star that pulses with unusual rhythm, that is Azura's sun. When you see it, know I am looking back." As dawn approached, forcing their separation, Riven held her with the desperation of someone facing inevitable loss. Yet beneath that desperation lay something stronger, a certainty that their story, impossible as it seemed, was far from over. "This is not goodbye," he promised as they parted at the cavern entrance. "It's simply the end of our first chapter." Naya's smile held both sadness and hope. "Then I shall eagerly await the beginning of our second." Cosmic separation. Earth felt wrong. After 6 months back in the familiar gravity and atmosphere of his home planet, Riven still found himself waking disoriented, expecting the cerulean skies of Azura rather than the muted blues of Earth. The Xenobiology department at the Global Space Initiative had welcomed him as a returning hero. His research on Azuran biodiversity hailed as groundbreaking, yet he moved through his days like a ghost, present in body but his mind constantly drifting to memories of iridescent eyes and purple skin, shimmering with constellation patterns. "You've been staring at that same slide for 20 minutes, Dr. Eliza Chen remarked, sliding into the seat beside him in the lab. As his former mentor and now department head, she'd been the first to notice his distraction. "Sorry," Riven mumbled, adjusting the microscope unnecessarily. "Just comparing cellular structures." Eliza's expression softened. "You left something behind on Azura, didn't you? Something more important than research samples." The question caught him off guard. He had been careful not to include his personal relationship with Naya in any official reports, knowing it would undermine the scientific credibility of his work. "But Eliza had always been perceptive. Is it that obvious?" he asked. "Only to someone who's known you since you were an eager graduate student." She placed a hand on his arm. "And perhaps to anyone who's ever been in love." The word hung between them. Love. Such a simple term for the complex web of emotions, memories, and connections that bound him to a woman on a planet 8 light-years away. Each night, following Naya's instructions, Riven would locate Azura's sun in the southern sky, a blue star pulsing with an irregular rhythm that astronomers had long considered an anomaly. He would stand on his apartment balcony wondering if at that same moment, Naya was looking toward Earth's distant yellow sun. 3 months after his return, Riven was summoned to Director Wei's office. The imposing figure of the Global Space Initiative's leader was framed by holographic star charts swirling behind her desk. "Dr. Thorne," she began without preamble, "your Azura research has opened new frontiers in our understanding of exoplanet ecosystems. We're assembling a second expedition, longer term, more comprehensive. 3 years minimum." Riven's heart stuttered. "When would this expedition depart?" 6 months. We need someone with first-hand experience to lead the Xenobiology division." Director Wei fixed him with a penetrating stare. "I understand from Dr. Chen that you might be particularly motivated to return." Heat rose in Riven's face. "My research is unfinished," he said carefully. "Indeed." A ghost of a smile touched Wei's lips. "The official offer will come through proper channels, but I wanted to gauge your interest personally." "Yes," Riven said, perhaps too quickly. "I'm interested." That night, standing on his balcony, Riven spoke aloud to Azura's distant star as if Naya could hear him across the void. "I'm coming back," he whispered. "Wait for me." The preparation months passed in a blur of training, equipment requisitions, and team selections. Riven insisted on bringing specialists in cultural anthropology and linguistic communication, resources the first mission had lacked. If humanity was to establish meaningful contact with the Vashiri, it would need to be on equal terms, with respect for their knowledge and traditions. The night before launch, Riven dreamed of Naya, not memories but something more immediate. They stood in the hidden valley where they'd first met, though everything appeared in vivid detail impossible for a normal dream. "You're returning," she said, her voice as clear as if she stood beside him. "How did you know?" he asked. wondering if this was merely his subconscious processing his hopes. Naya's smile held secrets. The elders have relented. They've recognized what exists between us transcends their concerns. She approached, reaching for his hand. There is much I couldn't tell you before. Preparations I needed to make. Preparations for what? For bridging our worlds. Her touch felt impossibly real. Safe journey, Riven Thorn. The stars themselves conspire to reunite us. He woke with tears on his face and an overwhelming certainty that the dream had been more than imagination. Somehow, across impossible distance, Naya had reached him. The launch day arrived with perfect weather. As the interstellar vessel Horizon prepared for departure, Riven took one last look at Earth's landscape. He had arranged for a small apartment to be maintained during his absence, but somehow he knew he wouldn't be returning to it. Course set for Azura, announced Captain Rivera from the bridge. Estimated arrival in 28 days using the new fold space drive. 28 days. The previous journey had taken 7 months. The technological leap would bring him back to Naya in less than a moon cycle of her world. As Earth diminished to a blue marble, and then to a mere point of light, Riven felt none of the melancholy that typically accompanied departure. Instead, a growing sense of anticipation filled him. He wasn't leaving home behind. He was heading toward it. The journey passed in cycles of work and preparation. Riven briefed the team extensively on Azuran biology and what little was known of Vashiri culture, careful to maintain scientific objectivity despite his personal connection. Yet at night, in the privacy of his quarters, he found himself practicing the Vashiri language. Naya had begun teaching him its complex tonal patterns and emotional resonances, impossible to fully capture with human vocal cords. As they approached Azura's system, Riven experienced another dream connection with Naya. This time, she showed him images of changes among her people, preparations for contact, discussions among elders, a new openness to exchange with humans. "We will be waiting," she told him. Her mental voice filled with an emotion that transcended linguistic barriers. The first greeting between our worlds, truly between equals. The Horizon entered Azura's orbit on the 27th day, earlier than projected. As the planet's familiar azure surface came into view on the ship's monitors, Riven felt a tightness in his chest that was both pain and joy. Somewhere below, Naya waited. "Prepare for atmospheric entry," Captain Rivera ordered. "Touchdown at primary coordinates in 43 minutes. Riven watched the approach with increasing anticipation. The landing site appeared on screen and his breath caught. Surrounding the designated clearing stood hundreds of Vashiri, arranged in ceremonial patterns he recognized from Naya's teachings. At their center, a solitary figure waited, purple skin gleaming in Azura's sunlight. "They're expecting us," murmured Dr. Adams, the cultural anthropologist. "Yes," Riven replied, unable to tear his gaze from the monitor. "They've been expecting us for a very long time." Stellar reunion. The Horizon's landing ramp descended with a hydraulic hiss, releasing Earth's atmosphere into Azura's slightly denser air. Protocol dictated that first contact teams wear environmental suits until biological compatibility was confirmed, but Riven had insisted on an exception. His previous exposure to Azura had demonstrated no adverse effects, and he refused to greet Naya from behind a helmet's barrier. Captain Rivera stepped forward, prepared to deliver the official diplomatic greeting, but paused at the sight before them. The assembled Vashiri had begun a synchronized movement, not a dance exactly, but a flowing sequence that rippled through the crowd like wind through tall grass. "It's a welcome ceremony," Riven explained, recognizing the patterns Naya had described in their shared dream communications. "They're acknowledging our arrival as equals." At the center of the formation, Naya stood motionless, her iridescent eyes fixed on the ship's entrance. She wore ceremonial robes of a deep indigo that complemented her purple skin, adorned with crystalline elements that captured and refracted the sunlight. Around her neck hung a pendant that pulsed with bioluminescent energy. Riven's scientific training evaporated in the face of raw emotion. Protocol and procedure forgotten, he stepped past Captain Rivera and walked directly down the ramp. The Vashiri's synchronized movements paused, all eyes turning to watch his approach. The distance between the ship and Naya seemed both infinite and insignificant. With each step, Riven felt the weight of Earth's gravity falling away, replaced by the certainty that had sustained him across 8 light-years of space. When they stood before each other at last, neither spoke immediately. Words seemed inadequate vessels for the moment's significance. Naya extended her hand palm up, the traditional Vashiri greeting between equals. Riven placed his palm against hers, and the familiar warmth of soul-speaking flowed between them, more powerful than he remembered. In an instant, he experienced the 6 months of their separation through her consciousness, her battles with the elders, her search through ancient texts, her certainty that their connection transcended conventional understanding. "The council has recognized you as Vashtiar," she said aloud, her melodic voice sending shivers through him. "Soulkin from beyond stars." Behind him, Riven was vaguely aware of the expedition team watching in stunned silence. This wasn't the carefully choreographed first contact they had rehearsed. "I never stopped looking for your star," he replied, emotions threatening to overwhelm his composure. Naya smiled, the expression transforming her face just as it had the first day they met. "Some connections cannot be broken by mere distance." She turned to address the watching humans. "The Vashiri welcome Earth's children. We have prepared a place for sharing knowledge." Captain Rivera stepped forward, recovering her diplomatic poise. "On behalf of Earth's Global Space Initiative, we thank you for this welcome." As formal introductions commenced, Naya drew Riven slightly apart. "There is much I could not explain through our dream bonds," she said quietly. "The elders have studied the ancient records since your departure. What exists between us was foretold millennia ago." Riven's scientific skepticism surfaced. "Foretold? That seems improbable." Her eyes sparkled with amusement. "More improbable than two beings from different worlds forming a soul bond? More improbable than dream communication across light years?" he conceded with a smile. "What did these records foretell?" Naya's expression grew solemn. The ancients spoke of a time when the children of the divided worlds would reunite, when bonds of heart would rebuild bridges between stars. She touched the glowing pendant at her throat. "This contains knowledge from the first days when our ancestors traveled between worlds." Riven stared at her, processing the implications. "Are you saying the Vashiri did not evolve on Azura?" she confirmed. "We were placed here as humans were placed on Earth, two branches of one ancient tree separated to develop along different paths." The revelation stunned him. If proven true, it would revolutionize humanity's understanding of its own origins. "The pendant holds the coordinates of our ancestral home," Naya continued, "and the key to accessing the pathways between worlds that our forebears once walked freely. That's why the elders changed their position," Riven realized. "They believe our meeting was part of this reunification." Naya nodded. "The cycle of separation ends. A new cycle of reunion begins." She placed her hand over his heart. "Beginning with us." The expedition established its base camp alongside the Vashiri settlement. In the days that followed, scientists and elders exchanged knowledge with growing enthusiasm. The humans marveled at Vashiri biocommunication techniques, while the Vashiri expressed wonder at human technological achievements. At the center of this cultural exchange stood Riven and Naya, bridging the gap between worlds that had never truly been separate. One evening, as Azura's 3 moons aligned in a rare conjunction, the Vashiri led the human delegation to an ancient structure hidden deep within the crystal forests. The massive archway, constructed of materials unknown to Earth science, hummed with energy as the moonlight struck its surface. "The doorway of ancestors," Naya explained, her hand warm in Riven's, active only during the triple alignment. Elder Thorin, who had once opposed their relationship most vehemently, now approached with reverence. For millennia, this doorway remained silent. "We preserved it as tradition demanded, never truly believing it would awaken in our lifetime." The archway's humming intensified, and within its empty frame, a swirling vortex of energy materialized. Through this impossible window, Riven glimpsed unfamiliar stars, a landscape both alien and strangely familiar. "The homeworld," Elder Thorin intoned, "the cradle of both our peoples." Scientists from the expedition rushed to document the phenomenon with their instruments, while the Vashiri raised their voices in an ancient song of welcome. Amidst this convergence of science and ceremony, Naya turned to Riven. "We stand at the threshold of a new chapter for both our peoples," she said. "The ancients believed that when the doorway reopened, those who carried the dual soul would lead the way forward." Riven understood immediately. They meant us. Naya nodded, her eyes reflecting the swirling energies of the portal. The choice is ours. We can step through together, become the first of our kinds to walk the ancestral world in millennia. The enormity of the moment washed over Riven. This transcended personal desires or scientific ambition. What awaited through that portal could answer humanity's oldest questions about its origins. Whatever lies beyond, he said, tightening his grip on her hand. We face it together. As they approached the threshold, Captain Rivera called out, "Dr. Thorne, we haven't established safety protocols for—" But Riven had moved beyond caution. The past year had taught him that some journeys required faith that transcended rational calculation. With Naya at his side, he stepped toward the light. "Not an ending," Naya whispered as the energy enveloped them. "A beginning." In that moment of transition, as two worlds reunited through their joined hands, Riven understood that their improbable connection had never been random. Across the vast distances of space, across evolutionary divergence and cultural difference, something ancient and profound had recognized itself in both of them. The portal's light intensified, then stabilized. Hand in hand, representatives of two branches of a single cosmic family tree stepped forward into their shared destiny, pioneering a path that others would soon follow. Behind them, humans and Vashiri watched in awe as the impossible became reality. Before them lay the answers to questions both peoples had asked since first gazing up at the stars, not as separate species, but as kindred souls finding their way home.